and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Aquatic Center Season Review 2022 Outlook.
You want me to take the lead, Heather? Or do you want to, or?
It doesn't matter. So there is a form that you all received, or a report that you received, and it highlights the successes. The total membership sold were 637. The total revenue was $50,503.32. For a majority of the season, we were able to stay open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We did several, we had 3 2-week session periods for our swim lessons. We had a swim team this year of 16 swimmers.
What was the age group for the swim team? Heather, can you remind me?
The youngest was, I believe, 8 years old up through 17.
And are they just one big team there, or are they divided amongst their age group? One big team.
Yeah, one big team. We had 4 rescues during the season with our lifeguards. We had several different events planned throughout this summer. The ones that were most successful were the triathlon, the luau, the high school mixer, and then the elementary party. And then below that is the lessons of this past season. So of course, advertising staffing sooner, with hopefully an opportunity to reach out to the colleges for staffing. Doing a coach search for the swim lessons, as well as we will need a new coach for the swim team this year. Utilizing our resources better, so coordinating with the director of the Temperance YMCA facility, as well as the Adrian YMCA facility. More training for our lifeguards. Improve the swim lesson processes, procedures, and set clear expectations for the guards and participants. More training with the Easy Facility software. And then for this coming 2022 season planning, so due December, next month is the County Health Department pool inspection fee, as well as the State of Michigan license fee. Work with Parks and Recreation Board on programming beginning in January. Go over again the rules of the pool with the Parks and Rec Board. Schedule lifeguard training. Begin advertising job postings. Begin planning concession services. With the possibility of expanded services, so working with the health department for the 2023 season. Establishing facility operational days and hours in February. Set up an organized facility to ensure proper paperwork is in place beginning in March. Begin to clean and prepare schedules, lessons, the facility itself beginning in April. Ordering the lifeguard suits in April, ordering the chemicals and supplies in April, and then develop daily cleaning checklist in May. Which it is in place. It would just be a matter of if any changes need to happen.
What were our expenditures for last year, the 2021 season?
Ready?
Yes.
The total expenditures were $147,129. Keep in mind that $26,813 was a payment to MIG for their retainage for, in regards to the construction. So that will not be a reoccurring expense, and was fairly large last year.
Do you remember what the budgeted
This year,
expenditures were for 2021 and 2022?
$118,120.
118, 120.
Was that for 2021?
That's for our current fiscal year.
That's for 2022.
Yeah.
One
Oh,
hundred-
so budgeted initially was 100, is that what you're asking last year? Because we amended the budget, it was 120,000 and we had to amend it to the 147, 129.
So initially it was the 120. And then for the year of 22, we've got the 118, 120.
Correct.
Great.
But Heather or Danielle, you may know, what was our original revenue thought with our memberships and what was our goal? 'Cause I know you have obviously surpassed the goal. Do you recall what that was?
It was 25,000 was what
Okay.
we were anticipating
Okay.
our revenue being for the year.
And we did for this year budget that at 40, just to be safe and make sure that our projections, again, we'd love to see that exceed, but we just were not sure and wanted to make sure our budget was as accurate as possible. So hopefully we hit the 50 again, but
So 40,000 you said for 22 as well. Okay,
yes.
I understand.
Did you have a lot of adult swims or adult lane swims, Heather?
So the adult lane swim time was from 7:30 until 8:30 every morning. And then the swim team came in after that, and then we had swim lessons after that.
And how was the adult
There was,
response?
I mean, maybe like 10 or 12 people, not all at the same time,
Right.
that were pretty consistent with their lane swim.
Was it a Monday through Friday kind of thing?
It was.
That's what I thought.
So one of the things that we'd really like to do this year is in January, work with the Parks and Rec Board to really work out better, not better, but just have a better plan for our programming and make sure we're a little bit more prepared. Heather did an awesome job pretty last minute this last year. So I am hoping to be a bigger resource and to get that board involved more and be ahead of the game this year instead of trying to rush and catch up, which is kind of how we felt the whole season, it seemed like, with the pool last year.
Do you know if there's any lifeguards that want to be retained or plan to come on board for next year? Offhand.
I do not know that yet.
Did we conduct any exit interviews with lifeguards?
We did not.
Okay.
I thought we were going to do.
With the total membership sold, is that households or is that individual?
That's individual.
So how would a family be counted in that 637?
It depends on the family size.
So like a family of 4 would be considered 4 of the 637?
Yes,
Okay. With the revenue and the potential for concessions, does that change our target at all? If we look to have concessions outsourced?
No, so actually, what we had discussed, Danielle and myself had discussed, was the possibility of serving hot and cold items in
Okay.
2023, and what the health department would require for that inside the concessions room.
Okay, so we're not looking to outsource that then?
No.
Great. So there would have to be some additional work to the facility
Correct.
to get that up and going. Specifically, hand washing station,
Yeah.
dishwashing station.
Yeah.
But the plumbing's already there,
The plumbing is there, correct.
so it would be sinks and then refrigeration and potentially microwaves and whatnot. Okay,
Our goal for that was really maybe to do what we did last year with the concessions where it's prepackaged items and plan to do that in the season of 2023. Because it will take, we'll have to have inspections by the health department, make sure we've got the funding for that. We wanted to do some more research to see what other communities have done, what they're successful selling, and try to have some better preparation so we don't just kind of throw a dart at the wall and hope we hit. So that was kind of the plan there. So that's more of a long-term goal. But our concessions did well. The prepackaged candies, chips, things like that did really well this last year.
I was curious on this, excuse me, for the total revenue, do we have a breakdown of the revenue?
We don't,
We don't know how much was the concessions or how much was,
no. And if that's something you guys want to see, I can work with Brandon to set up those funds. The only breakdown we had in the pool last year was the memberships or not really all pool items. And then the only thing that was pulled out was the pool parties themselves. So
So
you,
our software can't provide us with daily versus membership versus
yeah, we need to
concessions.
do some training on the software just to get the total membership. It took me a few minutes. I'm sure it's easy. It's just learning how to navigate and pull the reports. But it does have a lot of capabilities. In fact, that software can be expanded to a lot more than just the pool too. We could be using it in our parks and all kinds of things.
was there a cost for the swim team? Heather, as far as like uniforms, was coach, was there a stipend, was there anything like that? I can't recall.
There was the only expense for the swim team, which they paid a fee to participate in.
Right.
Was actually no, because the parents paid for that. I was trying to think, they got hats that were swim caps.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
As a part of
$40
like
rings about.
for the swim team, it was 95.
Was it?
Mhm.
It was free.
The swim lessons.
So when they go, like, again, asking, so if they go ahead and they participate in a swim meet, are there any costs with the swim meet? I mean, like, so when they go to another place, do they have to, so say they went to Adrian, do they have to pay for that facility at all, anything with that, or is that still part of their fee, excuse me, is supposed to be?
There was only the end of the year like championship meet, whatever that was, that did cost extra for the parents that they paid, and it was $16 a swimmer.
So the parents pay for that as well. And I kind of like to know what the parents are paying as well, if we can find that out. I mean, just so
Paying for what?
I'm paying for, I mean, if they're paying for the meets, if they're paying for the.
Just that one,
Just the
everything
one.
else is free.
Yeah, and I don't think there was entry fees for
No,
any of the
nothing.
pool facilities.
Okay.
It's free to get in.
Have we made the pool part of Parks and Rec board?
It's Parks and Rec has not really had, and not to any fault of their own, but clear guidance. So the pool now with their updated bylaws is part of their kind of under their purview. And again, that's a big reason in January, we want to bring them in, we're going to share this information with them and work with them moving forward into the new season to get them involved. But in the past, they have not been, no.
I knew that, I just didn't know if it had
Yes,
officially
yeah,
placed there.
it makes sense, really.
Does to me.
Been saying that for a long while.
Any other questions for Danielle or Heather? I think the season went pretty well.
And then,
Better than expected.
yeah,
Cool.
Yeah, I think the big thing, just I guess for citizens and council is going to be staffing. Everywhere is struggling to get staffing. And I think going into the season this summer, that is my biggest concern. I'm hoping that we get some lifeguards that are wanting to come back, which will help because they'll already have that experience behind them. But there's a lot of new rules that came out with Michigan Treasury with age requirements and working limitations, which put restrictions on us even more so. So it will be incredibly important for us to get some good leadership out there to help with the lifeguards that are of an age that they can supervise. You can't have a 16, 17-year-old supervising kids that they have to be over 18, correct? They can't even be 18, right?
Correct.
Remember?
I think
I think
you are correct, yeah.
so.
And
That's
just
gonna
chemicals also, they have to be
correct.
over a
They
certain age now.
right. They won't. If you're 17, you cannot do the chemicals. Which our public works can help with that, but then that's added or increased costs with them, or they're not doing other things they need to be doing. So it's staffing is definitely going forward. I think Heather and I are gonna really try to recruit, reach out to the colleges, see if we can't get some traction that way. I've already, every time I think of it or like meet somebody, I'm like, hey, great summer job, you could get a tan while you're working. I've been trying to sell it, but if you guys know any individuals that would be a good fit, that we could reach out to or send them our way, because we will need the help.
What about putting a call out for adults with any interest?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that's interested,
Yeah, I know
teachers
weekends are always
would be a good one.
problematic, so any adult help would be great.
Yeah. Because we were trying to think, because it's such a seasonal thing, we're like, who needs summer jobs? And that's, I mean, we were gonna talk to, or we've already talked to Scott about putting out something at the schools to see if we can't get some interest that way. We're going to reach out to the colleges, the YMCA, we'll get an ad out and try to spread that across too. And but yeah, any ideas you guys have or people, definitely let us know.
Someone had a suggestion. Jackie Bates, your name came up.
I do have a couple.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about the food and what would go in the concession stand, talk to the ladies that run the cafeterias at the schools. They know what the kids eat. You know, what's the most popular thing, if it's pizza, you know, or yogurt or things like that. They know what gets scraped off in the trash cans. And I was under the impression last year that you had to be lifeguard certified to even work at the pool. Is that true?
You have to do a training,
So someone that wanted just to work at the front desk or whatever has to be certified as a lifeguard as well? That if that's the case, if you can do otherwise, that might open up some possibility for people to come in. I tried. In fact, George Brown was gonna pay a couple years ago for me to get my lifeguard certification. Remember? He was serious. But I was told that you have to have your certification even to work in the pavilion. Someone working in the concession stand, do they have to have lifeguard certification?
not if they're not acting as a lifeguard.
So,
So
but
that's
that would, I know they have breaks and the lifeguards rotate in the building.
They have a rotating.
Right, but maybe that you could adjust the schedule to accommodate, you know, all the requests off and different stuff, and maybe that would be a little incentive for the kids. Because I'm sure those kids that hire out as lifeguard don't want to be sitting at that desk. Or cleaning the bathrooms or whatever, just saying, you're not gonna get a can in there. I don't know. But, yeah. Just be careful, I mean, I worked at Sylvania Country Club and we had a concession stand. And, be very careful with what hot food you provide or whatever, because the equipment and the cleanliness can be a real challenge. And I'm not saying anybody that worked at the pool would do this, but don't let the staff eat up the profits. I know how it goes. Even working around food, right? You know, I'll grab this, grab that. And I know the village pays for the training. But there's a lot of places that are offering a bonus. If you work through the season or figure it out X number of hours or whatever, you get a bonus at the end of the season. Even if it's, if they pay for part of their training, they might be a little more invested in it, but give it back to them at the end of the year if they work through. Give it back to them.
Is that something? I'm sure we don't have that budgeted, but is that something we could solicit from village residents who maybe would want to donate to that?
To a bonus fund?
Yes.
I know we
I think you
wanted.
could get a lot of village residents on a regular basis that would go out there and run the desk for free.
Probably.
What were you gonna
It
say?
depends on the certification.
I know Heather and I talked about, because of budget concerns and restrictions, doing like a year-end party for the lifeguards. And something just to let them know how much we appreciate them, and if they complete the season, it can be something as simple as just a pool party where we order them some pizzas and just something so they know that they're appreciated.
Yeah, toward the end of the season, some of them are gone and their schedules are so crazy. Kids usually cash in the pocket.
I did have two
It's a good
people
thing.
that donated Cedar Point tickets to the lifeguards that were remaining at the end of the year.
Wow.
That's
Cool.
awesome.
That you guys-
Nope. I donated hats.
And they love the hats too.
As with the, what are the thoughts, I know, whatever month it was, and it was determined, Heather, for you to come on board, for you coming on board as taking care of the pool. It was my impression that we were gonna be having that discussion, if we're gonna continue that or not. I thought that was gonna occur, in October. We know the situation, and now it's November. I was just curious when we plan to have that discussion. Heather, if you have an interest in continuing, if we thought, what the thought was, what the numbers would turn out to be. I was curious of where we sit on that at this time.
Yeah, so Heather and I have talked about this in length as well. Heather has agreed to continue. However, I will be a lot more involved in the pool for a while. So this is the challenge. I actually would love to be able to pull Heather out of it. I think that my concern, Heather does a wonderful job, but she is stretched very thin and wears a lot of hats. And I would like to downgrade her family-sized tray to a plate. But it goes back to budget constraints, and we right now, within the pool, the recreation fund, we need to do a lot of fund development. And this goes back to, again, leaning on the board and getting some more ideas and input. One of our major goals is to really start doing that fund development and growing the whole recreation pool program to be able to support a position. I mean, we cannot even really support a part-time at this point, and it is part-time, if not more, work if we get to the point we want to be. So that's kind of the challenge for us right now. So again, I'm going to be taking on and helping Heather as much as I can. We've met with Eric, who is willing to step up and help wherever he can as well, because he is doing some of our programs such as soccer, football, and we've talked to him about growing this more as well. But we're kind of at a weird phase right now where unless we grow the program, we can't really support the additional staff. So it's kind of, we're in a rock and a hard spot, kind of. We have to grow it to get to that point.
And the only way someone can get paid is through the general fund. The general fund cannot assist with the parks and recreation.
The general fund could assist with the parks and
Because it
recreation.
Kind of is when it pays Heather, isn't it?
So the parks, yeah, the pools in general. So you can fund it that way, that you're still gonna run into, the recreation fund is a separate fund, and it should be you can supplement it, but it should still be treated similarly to an enterprise and it
Right.
should support itself. It's not,
That's the goal, I know.
yeah,
Right.
is definitely the goal. I mean, our
There is
general
no
fund
way.
cannot
There's no
support
way
the
this
position
pool is gonna
either.
become an enterprise fund.
No, I'm not saying that ever.
Okay.
There's, yeah, I agree. But what I want to get to is where the recreation fund is supporting its programs and it's not just a break, because right now it's a break even deal. So we have an event, we break even, we're not making anything. And I'm not saying we have to make tons of money, but we should be making enough to cover our true expenses with recreation. And then the pool will be general fund offsetting, but right now the general fund would have to bear the full burden of that cost.
It kind of does.
And there is a rec fund right now, which pays for.
But I apologize, I'm referring to the money that was for the pool and what Heather has done. That did come from the general fund, no?
But it's a small portion. Most of her salary is paid.
Oh, I
through the
understand that. Oh, I
DDA.
totally get that. I'm talking the, what was it,
6,000.
6,800, something like that.
62 something.
62, 68, something like that. And that's why I was just curious if some, and Heather, I hope you know this, but I will state it anyhow. It's not that you've done a poor job with the pool. You know that. You've done a wonderful job. We know what the situation was in the spring and you led it wonderfully. But at the same token, I would have to concur. I'm not sure how much more you can do. And our DDA is obviously valuable and you are valuable to it. And that's why I'm wondering, curious, if the $6,800 or $6,200 that you were paid could go to someone else. I don't know who that someone else is that could manage the pool, if that's what her focus was, or a portion of that that manages the pool. I don't know. I'm just trying to problem solve and look at it in a different manner. If somebody just went ahead and I'm just throwing out numbers, whether or not they make sense, but just say $5,000. Okay, and that's what that person did, is they did the scheduling, et cetera, for the pool. I know there's more involved than that. I get that. But I'm just suggesting that money came already from the general fund and that could go to someone else. That way it would allow Heather to focus and concentrate then on the DDA portion. That's where I'm looking at it from. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what I'm throwing out there.
I just am concerned it's not enough. I get what you were saying, but if we're going to get somebody, Heather's giving us a deal because apparently she loves us. So if we were to get somebody qualified to do all of those things, I don't know that they're gonna do it for the 6,000.
I wonder what those things are. I mean, if those things are just a pool or those things are other parks and rec things.
Right, she's doing all parks, she's doing pool, parks and rec, it's not just,
Maybe now with the parks and rec having a different, having the bylaws, et cetera, the parks and rec can start to, things kind of like the DDA does. I don't know.
Well, this was the hurdle that Darwin discussed.
Oh, yes,
when
absolutely.
the position was created,
Mhm.
was this rock and a hard place position
Yeah.
and trying to get us over,
The hump.
so to speak, yes.
yeah, I do not want this to be long-term, and I've told Heather the same thing, and again, she knows it's not her, she's done a phenomenal job, but it's just, this is not a long-term solution, but what I was hoping is to be able to get through this year and offer her more help and support, because I do think last year she kind of felt like it was just her without that support. And then next year, really look at, okay, what are we going to do? Because we can't continue the way we are. But I don't think that the village is in a position to say, okay, we can get somebody qualified, because goes back, if we just to have a warm body isn't beneficial either. We need somebody that's gonna be committed and do all of the responsibilities and tasks that we need them to do. So it's
Esther,
just, it's
Are you busy, Esther?
I don't do pool. It's not my thing.
I was
I'm
gonna
not a water person. My last name's Water, but I'm not a water.
Water ski.
Oh, you're a young wife, I get it. Oh, I know. I like that.
Heather, can I ask you about how many hours you put in a week just for the pool?
just water.
Yeah, roughly.
Man, it's really hard to say. And that's simply because I was bouncing back and forth from here out to there, running errands for everything. So if I had to guess, I would say an average of 20 to 25 hours a week,
Just for the pool.
just for the pool.
And you did a happy dance the day it closed, didn't you?
Pardon?
And you did a happy dance the day it closed, didn't you?
Well, and that
All right,
just
that's
reiterates that that's not fair to the DDA program, because if you're,
Right.
we're paying for 3/4 of your salary.
Well, that's
through the
my
DDA
additional
program.
time that I worked, so.
Okay, so above
So-
and beyond, so you
yeah.
were pulling 50, 60-hour weeks.
Yeah.
And that, those are the things that Heather shouldn't be doing. She shouldn't be manning the check-in table and that sort of stuff. And I get that we had a struggle with, a solid manager. But that falls back to, we do need to find somebody that, we have to pay for somebody good. We're already at a 69,800 net loss for the year. It's just like Danielle said, obviously, it's all about funding. And any expanded program should pay for itself, whether it's aerobics or whatever. Yes, we break even or whatever, but I mean, do we tack on 5-10% or whatever to make something up to help offset those costs? That's something that we should address. But Heather shouldn't be sitting there manning that table daily. It's not your role.
Maybe when you advertise for it, or if you're gonna advertise for a position like that, speak to I don't wanna say seniors. Speak to my age group, because maybe there's somebody out there retired who would like to work 20 hours a week or 25 hours a week, and only for that season.
Right.
I mean, I just hired a lady, but she's older than I am, and she's doing the soda fountain with me. She had experience. I didn't have to train her. She had worked in 2 other soda fountains. There are people out there. But this lady, again, she just wanted to supplement her Social Security, so there's people. And I just think that's a good niche to look into.
Well, we lost a lot of knowledge when the old pool closed and the new one didn't open for 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
That gap in service created a lot of these problems. So hopefully in a few years, we'll be able to roll staff over. We'll have pretty well-seasoned lifeguards coming through year after year, developing managers, having the schedule kind of set itself. With that said, my oldest was a lifeguard, and a lot of the issues that arose with lifeguards were simply because of who lifeguards are. They're young athletes. So inevitably they ran into cross country and volleyball and football and baseball being played throughout the summer and training camps starting. So those things, you can't overcome those. Those are high school dreams that you're asking them to put on the back burner to go to work. So I think we're gonna struggle for a while, but I think we can get there. If we can fill the gap with some adults, young adults, older adults, I think that'd be great. Yes, I think we could look at hiring or at least having people on call to work the front desk and the concession stands, maybe not just being lifeguard certified, although I thought it was a great idea to kind of rotate them through, get them out of the chair, get them out of the sun for a break. I know a lot of them appreciated that, even though it's not super exciting to be on the desk. So I think we're in a really good spot. Like I only received really great feedback every time I was there. Actually, most of the negative comments were because they wanted more, not because we weren't on, but like they wanted more hours, late night swims. They wanted Sundays to be longer because Sundays tended to be a short day. So they wanted more of it. And I don't think we need to really offer more additional programming other than the lesson plans. So I think the team was a great addition. I never thought of that. That was really cool to see. My youngest enjoyed that. Lessons can definitely get better and get filled up even more. And then extended hours. I think we've got really great formula for success. We can review the price of the membership, both as a family and individuals. So I think we're right there. We just, long-term, we've got to find Parks and Rec, a dedicated staff member at Parks and Rec, but I don't know if a community this size will ever fully support one. We're right in that in-between. If we could bring in, combined with Deerfield or something, that'd be a little different, but like, our size is just right there. It's right below the threshold of needing a full-time staffer. Or we've got to find more for them to do on top of Parks and Rec. Like Heather taking on DDA plus Parks and Rec. Obviously DDA needs a dedicated person, so what could that other person do on top of Parks and Rec?
We talked about that
Where's,
too.
you know, it's
Like,
20, 25 hours a week, probably. Where's the other 10 to 15 hours a week coming from?
I got lots of ideas for that.
Okay.
And we've talked about that too, because we do have shortfalls elsewhere, but again, we can't turn around tomorrow and do that
Sure.
in a successful way. So that was the intent of extending this longer, but I am with you guys, it cannot be permanent at all. And we have to find some different solutions and be creative in how we want to.
And Heather, I'd love to get you there permanently. I thought what you did on the fly last season to get it going and bring what you brought to the table is amazing. So I'd love to have you in that dedicated position full time.
Big learning curve for sure, especially the mechanics of a 181,000 gallon
And
pool.
one day I stopped over there, you look like an old steamship captain.
Yeah.
You did good.
Yeah, you have something else, Jeff?
I do, you talked about expanding the swim lessons. How about getting lifeguard training out of the pool and start growing our own crew? Let them do it, even if they're 14, 15, if they get their certification or 16, and build those kids into
It's
being here.
actually
You'll
quite
get,
extensive.
you'll get local
You have
kids.
to have quite extensive training to train
I
lifeguards.
know, but is it a possibility
It is, but it takes years and it's a heavy investment as well
to what?
to train lifeguards. Not only that, there's
To get them
liability.
certified?
To get them
to
certified,
teach.
there's also liability issues.
Yeah,
So we probably don't want to train lifeguards, but there's also an additional certification to
we did the
give
first
swim,
year.
give swim lessons.
Bringing the police officer was actually the reason
I
why
know.
we were, because she already had that certification.
Did she have it or did she get it, did she acquire
She
it
already had it.
to teach it? Well, maybe that would be something to build, an all-around aquatic center for little kids up to the big kids. Because that would be local kids and that might be a potential to get them, when they get to be old enough, to get a job on the pool. Back in the horse and buggy days,
Well, that's so,
there was lifeguard training at the pool every year.
yes, there was. But you're talking different times.
Yeah, I
And
said
you-
back,
and you know,
back
and
in the
you know
horse and
as well
buggy
as I
days.
do,
Yeah,
that back then,
yes,
everybody knows.
yeah.
There was people that were there were lifeguards. Everybody knew the lifeguards,
Well,
everybody- and they were there year after year.
Yes.
And nowadays, with the way kids are,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much for them to do.
Well, but
And you know what, but to dedicate more than a year, hell, you can't get adults to work, how are you gonna get kids to work?
I know, but
I
James
mean,
brought up a
let's
point,
just
it's
face
been
it.
4 or 5 years. So if we start building something
Yep.
now and build toward,
But keeping the
That.
training under a national franchise like the YMCA is probably the best thing for us. Having the kids go to the Y and take the certification is probably the best thing. But that way,
it'd be
they
nice,
got,
there might be more kids that, well,
And the bigger picture is the liability part of that. If anything happens, it's just a major liability and risk, and in the
well,
world we
how did
live
they
in.
get away with teaching it before? when Brittany taught it.
I believe she, and I wasn't a part of it, so I'm not 100% sure, but I believe she did it at the center. It's when they did their in water.
But she got certified to teach.
I don't know where she got certified to teach at.
Well, but we did have a certified Blissfield person here to give, and it was out of the pool. Yeah.
She had,
so-
I think she had that certification before she came here to
Yes.
be a police officer.
So Danielle, is this something that we have to, as a council, revisit at a formal meeting to continue the situation? Or, I mean, that was my understanding, is it had to be revisited. So if it has to be revisited, I would think the council would have to go ahead and put this into play.
So I will have to look at your specific motion, but the way the I mean, you guys approved the budget, which is how we were planning to move forward, so let me double check to see, because I don't know what your
And that
exact
was in the
motion
budget, I remember
was,
that
or-
discussion, and because we had said that we would have to come back to revisit this, but to go through it with the 22 budget. I recall that certainly, but I didn't know if there was something more that we need to do. Because what I'm hearing said, just for clarification, is that we're gonna go ahead and continue, Heather, yes, what we've done this year, we're gonna continue for the year 22. And then we're gonna revisit it at the end of 22, a year from now.
Yeah, probably soon, I would say we'll probably be looking at it when we start the budget process for next year,
Okay.
which will be earlier than we did this year. And the big changes are that I will be helping her a lot this year, so.
Well, then, but then again, as you stated already, the Parks and Rec will be able to assist as well, since it has it underneath its, its umbrella as well. So that should be a big difference for you.
But then again, we don't want you out there
I was
Well,
all
gonna
the
say
time
that.
and
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
yeah,
think, I
administrator.
really like Jackie's idea of trying to maybe get some people that are willing to volunteer to run the desk. That would be a huge help, even if they're just maybe on call or standby and they don't wanna do it the whole summer, but just coverage or something. I thought that was great. I took a ton of notes. I agree. I can't really work at the desk out there and get all my other stuff done. Willing to if I need to, but preferably her or I are not there, but we can help each other with programming and reaching out to people and be a little bit more proactive this year I think will just help immensely, so.
Alright. Sounds good.
Regarding the punch list items, the contractors and whatnot, again, what are we gonna do about the roof?
So, I don't know.
I know Mr. Koppelman thinks he's done or whatever, but I've asked this for, I don't know how many administrators, and I know that you're new into this, but again, we should have had that money set aside in retainer that didn't get paid out to Midwest.
Right,
And again,
we did not.
I wanna know,
Yeah.
okay, then if Mr. Koppelman approved the payouts, or if Darwin, or if Joe, or whoever approved the payouts, I want those answers. I want to know if Mr. Koppelman approved it or not, because we knew we had a problem with the roof. We shouldn't have paid that out to those contractors. And I'll be darned if the public's not gonna be quite peeved that we're paying.
We do have some left in reserve.
Not enough, not near enough. So
So
again,
we
why were those
didn't
payments
pay
approved?
their retainage. So Midwest still has not been paid their total retainage amount, which was 10% of their total project, and I don't recall off the top of my head the exact amount. I wanna say it was like 36 or 35,000, but we never, as the village, set that retainage aside. So this has been really challenging. I found a ton of documents, but nothing that's been super beneficial. I have spoke with Mr. Koppelman a few times, who's indicated that he's done, in fact, he still feels like we owe him money, that I've provided numerous documentation to him that I don't think we do based on the information I have. So he's pretty much said, I've done my part, I've paid out, completed my contract. Anything above that, he would like additional payment. Midwest has sent a letter to the village putting us on notice that we need to pay them or they will take us to court. I shouldn't say we, our legal has on numerous occasions tried to contact their attorney and has yet to get a single phone call back. And he's been documenting every time that he's reached out to to their attorney. So it's been just kind of, it's been extremely challenging. And then in addition to that, the roof is wrong. But my understanding is that it's aesthetics, it's not leaking, it is wrong. It was not installed properly, but on the plus side, knock on wood, we don't have major deficiencies with the way it is. It's more of just the appearance and the life of the roof will not be as long as it should be because of those deficiencies.
But that's the cost.
Right.
That's the cost. And this is where I know last week when I was incorrect when I said Pogemeyer, but these kind of things continue to happen when we have whatever building it is, whether it's a pool building or it's a wastewater treatment plant. Why does this, I mean, is this part of what it is with it just is, it seems to be always so simple. Here's the list, A, B, C, D, but A, C get done, but not B, and then it ends up costing us in so many ways. Why does this keep happening?
Well,
And-
being
yeah, and is it just-
completely
is it just
honest, I
contract
think
stuff? I
the
don't know.
biggest thing is that we fail to have a very clear, accountable project manager. And moving forward, I think that's where we need to improve. So if we are doing a wastewater treatment project, who in the village owns that project, is tracking it, is monitoring it? Should be me probably in this case, but so I have to own that. I have to be accountable for what's happening and what steps we're going through. So I think that's where we need to make sure that we are establishing clearly who's taking on this project and doing all of those things and managing it.
And there's where our pool did not just have one single person.
And typically, you will always have more people involved, like, again, I'm gonna use the wastewater treatment plant, it shouldn't be solely, like, I should be the project manager, but I need to be communicating with Steve and Randy and pulling those other people in, but at the end of the day, I should be managing it with their advice and help and feedback and communication and with the engineers, and I mean, I'm not just gonna go decide all these things and not communicate it, but I have to be accountable for what's happening moving forward. So I think with any projects in the future, we need to say, okay, we're doing ABC project with the village, your primary contact will be John Smith. And that's who you report to, and then we as an internal team do what we need to do. But I think that's where we're falling short.
Hey, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why is it that we have contracts with people? Are contracts just crap anymore? Do we not go by what the contract says? Anybody who signs a contract with somebody to do any work, if they don't do that work satisfactory, you're not gonna pay them full price. Am I right or am I wrong? If any of you, are you right? Am I right or am I wrong? So why they cut back on the material? It's not what it's supposed to be. It's not what it called for. So why did we have to pay? And when I'm saying we, the village citizens have to pay for something because somebody's trying to slip a fast one on us.
Right.
And it's happened.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't happen because you got a signed contract.
And I do hear what you, and that goes back to, again, who's the project manager, that when work's being completed, that it should be the project manager that says this roof is not constructed or built to contract documents or to bid specifications, we're not accepting this, you're not being paid. And that's where we're falling short. So I agree with you. Where we're lacking isn't the contract side, it's the enforcement of the contract side. And who's the person, when you as council say we're moving forward with this project, you're the project manager, the buck stops with me or whoever at that, I wasn't here for the pool, but it's my job to say, no, we're not accepting this work rather than trying to go back after the fact, and that's where.
And that's probably where the
But I do.
problem lies, but I'm just saying. It just makes, it's fruitless. Why do we
Well, I think.
take an
there was-
inferior product when we should have never let them do it? Should have never said, no, you should have said.
The issue
no.
is when they did it. That's a big part of the issue. They roofed that in January.
But the point, but that's still not the point.
That's part of it.
It is, but the point is, darn it all, this is what you said you were gonna do.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I
you know
think
what?
the issue falls within, they did what they said they were going to do. That's where the communication breakdown is between our general contractor, designer, Kaufman, and the company. There's conflicting stories as to what is correct. So who's left holding the buck? We're trying to hold Kaufman accountable, Kaufman saying his work is complete. Midwest is trying to hold us accountable. We're saying their work is not complete. We're chasing each other's tails, but nobody will agree to who's at fault. So now, to your point, contract, we're being put on notice that we're being sued, which is actually a good thing, because then we'll get to the bottom of who it has to do what. This is how contracts get resolved now.
And it's sad.
It is.
It's sad because you
Yeah.
can't,
It shouldn't be that way.
it makes no sense. I mean, was there a specific design? Was there a specific roof that was supposed to have been put on?
Supposedly, yes, then we have a residential grade roof, if I remember correctly, and we were supposed to have some sort of commercial industrial grade roof, and the lifespan would have been a little different.
I think,
And I
right.
think
Sure, it's gonna be different.
the interior, it's not insulated for a reason. And that has an effect on the roofing materials, so
Sure
it's a
it
short
does.
lifespan, so.
Yep.
Yeah, but according to Midwest, if I remember correctly, they think they've satisfied the contract to the specs that they received. And that's where the debate is at this point.
Well, I don't see, I mean, I don't see how the village can, in good faith, pay them. I don't, because it's not what was supposed to be put on the road.
Mr. Koppelman knows it's not right, because I stood there and the day of the ribbon cutting, Bob, it was you, myself, Ray Jones, were you standing there too, Mike? I think so, with Mr. Koppelman. We looked at the wave of the roof on the pool house, on the pump house, and then the fascia. That fascia was wrong too. They put on a flimsy
Sure.
fascia instead of the heavier gauge stuff that they should have.
See, and I mean, that's something that you as a council and whoever is involved in it, if you're not meeting the specs, then you know what? Until you get it right, you're not gonna get paid for it.
But going back,
But it's going back to whoever,
if
yeah,
we would have had somebody out there
exactly.
stopping in every day or two and
Exactly.
see what was going on and.
Well, the problem, and that's the thing is, Mr. Kaufman knew about it, Dave told
Right,
us that
he
it was
did.
wrong. So that's my question, either one, why did he approve the payout, or two, why did Joe or Darwin or whoever it was approve the payout? And that's what the information that I would like to see.
And that's cause I pulled every file and I can't even find all the payouts, so it's just. I will get to it, it's just hard to backtrack now and try to piece it all together and.
Sure.
So, I mean, I do agree with you, we should not pay for work that was not completed properly and ideally in the future, we catch that right at the time and say, no, you're not getting payment. Instead of trying to backpedal and retrace our steps and.
Well, we did,
That's
that's the
when it
problem, is
gets-
we knew at the time, so why was it paid? That's
Right.
my
Yeah,
question. Yep,
we
it's frustrating.
we gotta watch our pennies, people. Sorry,
Well, we,
the way the times are, we have to
you
watch.
understand, your pennies are our pennies as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
but what's what I'm saying though,
yeah,
because you're talking about the whole village, and you know what, just throwing money out there, just to be throwing it out there. I'm gonna just make a little example. You have a lot of people in this town that have been in this town for a long time, they're on a fixed income. Okay? So we can't just keep throwing money out there like it's growing on a flipping tree, sorry. But we have to hold some people accountable, and if these contractors are not doing things right, we better be holding them accountable for it. And whoever has to do it, I don't care. But we better be holding some people accountable for the shoddy workmanship that's being done. If we're paying out a big price for it. I hope you guys would agree with me on that.
100%.
pay taxes too?
Hmm?
Yep.
They're all paying that.
My
much?
mom too.
You know, I just wanna see us as a village get what we should be getting and not be getting screwed in the end.
we are cognizant of that at every meeting.
So,
We really are, but that's why Mike was bringing it up, and that's why it hasn't stopped. You won't see a whole lot stopping here if we can help it. I mean, we
Yeah.
continue to.
Wasn't
fight for
the
it.
initial design a steel roof?
Mhm.
And it was changed to shingle to save money?
Mhm.
Should have kept that steel roof. We saved probably money in the long run and a lot of headache.
yeah, but I see, Danielle, what you're saying. You do need somebody,
Yeah.
but there again, you need somebody that may have a little knowledge of the building trades. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, like.
Like a building inspector,
Oh.
even,
Well, contractor.
like our building inspector or a contractor would check that out.
Well, Danielle has some large project experience, infrastructure.
Yeah, I've managed multi-million-dollar projects in
Okay.
my last job. I also am a huge advocate for pulling in resources. I love networking and reaching out to people that know way more than me, so,
And that's why I just think it's something that
yeah.
we need to make sure that things are going by the
And I
specifications.
think we all completely
Yep.
agree with you wholeheartedly.
It's just something now when that was brought up about paying them, like Mike said. Here we are. It wasn't done right. They used inferior material. Now, that's gotta account for something here somewhere on the village's part. For the reasons for not paying them. Because of the shoddy workmanship. And I just, instead of just saying, oh, we're gonna pay them to get them off our back.
Oh, we're not.
You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, and it's,
With the pool or the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
We have issues with both, and we're not gonna be paying them.
because.
All right, guys, anybody else on the pool discussion? I think it was a good discussion. Glad everything was brought up.
I'd like to see dog days again.
Thanks a lot, Heather, for,
Or y'all like to
Good
go
job.
first one?
I would do.
all right, that's it, guys.
To adjourn.
Yeah,
They're not official meetings.
no, it's not.